First contact fallout. The observation deck of the ESV Pathfinder fell silent as Captain Elaine Rice stared at the transmission screen. The alien diplomat, a tall crystalline being with limbs that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, had abruptly terminated the connection. The silence that followed felt heavier than the vacuum of space surrounding them. "What just happened?" Commander Jackson asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain Rice replayed the last few seconds of the transmission in her mind. The diplomatic exchange had been proceeding smoothly, or so she thought, until she presented Earth's traditional greeting gift, a simple crystalline sculpture meant to honor the Crystallid Federation's physiology. The moment the object appeared on screen, the alien diplomat's body had flashed a brilliant red, and then the transmission cut. "I think," she said slowly, "we may have just made a terrible mistake." Communications Officer Chen's console began blaring with incoming transmissions. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface as her eyes widened. "Captain, we're receiving messages from every Earth outpost in the sector. The Crystallid ships are mobilizing, all 73 of them." The color drained from Reyes's face. "Mobilizing where?" "Toward Earth, Captain." The Pathfinder, Earth's premier diplomatic vessel, had been sent to establish peaceful relations with the Crystallid Federation, a collective of crystalline species that controlled a significant portion of the galaxy. Humanity, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 decades ago, was eager to find allies among the stars. Instead, they'd apparently declared war. Within hours, emergency sessions convened across Earth. The United Nations Space Command gathered in their underground facility beneath Geneva, faces grim as they reviewed the information transmitted from the Pathfinder. General Wyzon, head of Earth's defense forces, stood before a projection showing the Crystallid Armada's trajectory. "Based on their current speed, we have approximately 2 weeks before they reach Earth's solar system," he explained to the assembled military and political leaders. "The Crystallid technology is estimated to be at least 2 centuries ahead of our own. Their weapons capabilities are largely unknown, but intelligence suggests they can manipulate matter at the subatomic level." President Afolayan of the United Earth Government rose from her seat. "What are our options, General?" "Militarily speaking, limited at best," General Zhang replied truthfully. "Our fleet consists of 37 combat-ready vessels, most designed for peacekeeping rather than full-scale warfare. The Crystallids have nearly twice that number, and their ships are significantly larger and more advanced." Dr. Amara Okafor, Earth's leading xenobiologist, cleared her throat. "If I may, there's something we should consider." All eyes turned to her. "We've been analyzing the Crystallid physiology based on our limited observations. They're silicon-based life forms, essentially living crystal. While this gives them certain advantages, such as resistance to radiation and extreme temperatures, it also creates potential vulnerabilities." She pulled up a molecular diagram. Silicon-based life would likely be extremely sensitive to certain vibrational frequencies and chemical compounds that wouldn't harm carbon-based organisms like ourselves. We've already seen how they reacted to the crystal sculpture Captain Rice presented. What if that reaction wasn't anger, but pain or fear? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Are you suggesting we found their weakness by accident?" President Afolayan asked. "I'm suggesting we might have," Dr. Okafor replied. "And if so, we may have inadvertently demonstrated that humans can harm them in ways other species cannot." Over the next 2 weeks, Earth transformed. Military installations worldwide switched to round-the-clock operations. Civilian evacuation protocols were initialized for major population centers. Scientists worked frantically to develop weapons and defenses based on Dr. Okafor's theories. Captain Rice and the Pathfinder were recalled to Earth, their diplomatic mission transformed into a military briefing. The crystal sculpture, now identified as potentially resonating at frequencies harmful to the Crystallids, was studied extensively. "You couldn't have known," Admiral Kowalski told the dejected Captain Rice as they watched engineers disassemble the sculpture. First contact scenarios are always unpredictable. I was supposed to establish peace, she replied. Instead, I may have doomed humanity. Or, the Admiral said thoughtfully, you may have inadvertently discovered the one thing that makes them fear us. 7 days before the projected arrival of the Crystallid Armada, Earth's scientists made a breakthrough. The crystalline structure of the diplomatic gift, when subjected to specific frequencies, emitted patterns similar to those observed in crystallid communication. It's like we accidentally spoke their language, Dr. Okafor explained to the Defense Council, but instead of saying hello, we essentially screamed attack directly into their most sensitive sensory organs. Armed with this knowledge, Earth developed a two-pronged strategy. Preparation for defense using the crystallid's apparent vulnerability to certain frequencies and vibrations, and a desperate attempt to establish communication before conflict became inevitable. Captain Rice volunteered for the most dangerous mission, taking a small, fast vessel to intercept the crystallid fleet before it reached Earth, carrying a modified communication device designed to speak their language without causing harm. This is a suicide mission, Captain, General Zhang warned as she prepared to depart. The chances of them listening before destroying your ship are minimal. Then minimal is still better than zero, she replied. And if there's even a chance to prevent this war, I have to try. The night before Earth's expected doom, billions looked up at the stars, wondering if it would be their last night under a peaceful sky. Military personnel said goodbyes to families. Religious centers overflowed with those seeking comfort. News channels broadcast continuous updates, attempting to balance truth with hope. In orbit, Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet maintained position, their weapon systems recalibrated based on Dr. Okafor's research. The planet's surface bristled with newly constructed sonic emitters designed to target the specific frequencies that affected crystallid physiology. At the UN Space Command headquarters, General Zhang stood before the tactical display, watching the red dots representing the approaching crystallid vessels. There had been no communication from Captain Reyes since she departed on her intercept mission 3 days earlier. Any word from our outposts? He asked. Nothing unexpected, sir, his aide replied. All reporting the crystallid fleet maintaining course and speed. The general nodded, then paused as something on the display caught his attention. What's that anomaly near Jupiter's orbit? The tactical officer magnified the area. Unknown, sir. Some kind of spatial distortion. Before anyone could investigate further, every communication system in the command center activated simultaneously. Screens flickered and displayed the same image. A crystallid being, its crystalline body gleaming with pulses of blue and green light. People of Earth, the being communicated, the translation software working overtime to convert the vibrational patterns into human language. You have demonstrated a capability no other species has shown in our 10,000-year history. The room fell silent. You have the ability to harm us with mere communication. This makes you either the most dangerous species we have encountered, or the most valuable allies. We approach not for war, but for verification and negotiation. General Zhang's communicator buzzed. The message was simple. Tell them I'm bringing guests. Captain Reyes. As the Crystallid Armada entered Earth's solar system the following day, they were not met with weapons fire, but with a delegation led by Captain Reyes, who had somehow managed to not only survive her mission but establish preliminary understanding. The first crystallid vessel to enter Earth orbit wasn't a warship but a diplomatic craft, escorted by the Pathfinder. As the alien delegation prepared to make history with the first official meeting on Earth's surface, Dr. Okafor made one final discovery that changed everything. The resonance pattern we accidentally created, she explained to President Afolayan moments before the meeting. It wasn't a threat or an attack signal. According to my latest analysis, it's actually closer to what they would consider a challenge of capability. Basically, we unintentionally challenged them to prove their worth to us. We challenged them. The president asked incredulously. Yes, Dr. Okafor replied with a nervous laugh. And in their culture, that's actually a sign of respect, offering a potential superior the chance to demonstrate their abilities. We accidentally declared ourselves as equals worthy of their attention, not enemies. President Afolayan shook her head in disbelief. So all this time, Dr. Okafor confirmed, they were rushing here not to destroy us, but to accept our challenge and prove themselves worthy of alliance with the species bold enough to challenge them. As the Crystallid delegation descended to Earth's surface, humanity prepared not for their last stand, but for their first steps into a much larger galactic community, one in which they had accidentally established themselves as respected equals rather than primitive newcomers. And all because they had inadvertently declared war on precisely the right species. The human advantage. The Grand Hall of the United Nations had never hosted visitors quite like these. 7 Crystallid delegates stood before Earth's assembled leaders, their bodies refracting the light from the ceiling fixtures into rainbow patterns across the walls. Captain Elaine Reyes stood between the two groups, now serving as humanity's first official xenodiplomat. Prime Facet Xerix of the Crystallid Federation welcomes this opportunity for discourse. The translation system rendered in a neutral voice. Your species has demonstrated unique capabilities that interest us greatly. President Afolayan stepped forward. We are pleased to welcome you in peace, though I must admit, we're still confused about how our actions were interpreted as a challenge rather than an offense. The lead Crystallid, whose body contained more facets than the others, emitted a series of harmonic vibrations that the translation system struggled with momentarily. In our culture, only equals issue challenges, it finally translated. Lesser species submit. By demonstrating your ability to produce resonances that affect our physiological structure, you established yourselves as potential peers. Dr. Okafor, standing among Earth's scientific delegation, leaned forward. You mean our accidental resonance patterns? There are no accidents in harmonic interaction. Prime Facet Xerix responded. The fact that your species could produce such patterns without extensive study of our biology suggests an intuitive understanding of universal principles that most carbon-based life forms lack. What followed was the most extraordinary scientific and cultural exchange in human history. Over the next 72 hours, as the Crystallid fleet maintained position in Earth's orbit, teams of human and alien specialists worked together to establish foundations of understanding. In one of the UN's converted conference rooms, Dr. Okafor sat across from a Crystallid scientist named Trilix, whose body contained brilliant blue veins running through an otherwise clear crystalline form. Your biological adaptability is remarkable. Trilix communicated as sensors analyzed Dr. Okafor's cellular structure. Carbon-based life is common in the galaxy, but human cellular regeneration and mutation rates are unprecedented. Really? Dr. Okafor asked, surprised. We've always considered ourselves rather fragile compared to how we imagine alien life might be. Physical durability is one measure, Trilix responded, but adaptability is another entirely. Your species can survive in environmental conditions that would shatter most others. You consume substances that would poison other carbon-based life forms. You recover from injuries that would be fatal to similar species. Dr. Okafor considered this. I suppose we do have remarkable healing capabilities, and our immune systems are quite robust. More than robust, Trilix corrected. They are weapons of devastating potential. The revelation hit the scientific community like a thunderbolt. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or intelligence, but their biology. While other species in the galaxy had evolved in relatively stable environments, Earth's chaotic climate shifts and diverse ecosystems had forced humans to become biological generalists, adaptable beyond anything the Crystallids had encountered. In the military briefing rooms, a different kind of exchange was taking place. General Zhang sat with the Crystallid security overseer, a being named Carix, whose body gleamed with metallic inclusions. Your defensive preparations were impressive for a species of your technological stage, Carix communicated. The resonance weapons you developed would indeed have caused us significant distress. General Zhang nodded cautiously. We hope to avoid using them. Yet you prepared them nonetheless, Carrick's noted. This combination of readiness for conflict and desire to avoid it is unusual. It's very human, Zhang replied. On the third day of the summit, the true reason for the crystallid's interest became clear. Prime Facet Xerix requested a private audience with President HFY, Captain Rice, and Dr. Okafor. We did not come merely to respond to your challenge, the crystallid leader explained once they were alone. We came because we need allies with your particular capabilities. The holographic display in the center of the room activated, showing a region of space unfamiliar to the humans. This is the Void Sector, 27 light-years from your solar system, Xerix continued. For the past 3 centuries, something has been consuming stars in this region. Not harvesting energy, completely eradicating stellar matter. The humans watched in horror as the hologram showed a time-lapse of stars winking out, one after another. We call them the entropy swarm, Xerix said. They are not alive as we understand life. They are more like conceptual entities, ideas given form. They consume order and leave chaos. And you think humans can help against this threat? President HFY asked. We know you can, Xerix replied. The Crystallid Federation includes 17 species across 200 star systems. We have technologies your scientists would consider miraculous, but we lack your adaptability, your biological resilience, and most importantly, your unpredictability. Dr. Okafor's eyes widened as she made the connection. Conceptual entities would operate on fixed principles, patterns they can't break because pattern is their nature. But humans excel at breaking patterns, Xerix finished. Your entire evolutionary history is defined by it. Where we see immutable laws, you see guidelines to be bent. Your creativity alone makes you valuable allies, but combined with your biological adaptability. Captain Rice leaned forward. You're saying we're weapons against these entropy things. I am saying, Xerix corrected, that you are the only species we have encountered who might be able to evolve faster than the swarm can adapt. Your challenge, unintentional though it was, came at a fortuitous time. Within weeks, the Crystallid Human Alliance was formalized. Earth received technological advancements that would have taken centuries to develop independently, while human scientists and military strategists joined Crystallid task forces focused on the entropy swarm. Captain Rice, now Admiral Rice, commanded the first joint human crystallid vessel, the Alliance ship Harmonic Defender. Its mission: establish the front line of defense against the approaching swarm. 6 months after the near-catastrophic first contact, Admiral Rice stood on the bridge of the Harmonic Defender, staring at the sensor readings from the edge of the Void Sector. Beside her stood Carrick, now her tactical advisor. The swarm has consumed 3 more stars since our last observation, Carrick noted. They're accelerating. Then so will we, Rice replied. Alert the fleet. We're implementing Adaptation Protocol Alpha. Adaptation Protocol Alpha was perhaps the most human contribution to the Alliance, a constantly evolving defense strategy that changed its parameters every 72 hours, preventing the swarm from establishing predictive patterns. As the joint fleet moved into position, Rice couldn't help but reflect on how close they had come to destroying any possibility of this alliance. One misinterpreted signal, one crystal sculpture resonating at just the right frequency, had nearly led to war. Instead, it had led to humanity's true place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or subjects, but as the unpredictable variable in a universe that desperately needed one. Fleet is in position, Admiral, her human first officer reported. Crystallid vessels confirm readiness, added Carrick. Admiral Rice nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. All vessels, this is Admiral Rice. The enemy we face today consumes order and structure. They break down patterns and destroy predictability. She paused, looking at the view screen showing the unsettling void where stars should be. Fortunately for the galaxy, humanity specializes in chaos, adaptation, and breaking the rules. Today, we show them what happens when you threaten a galaxy that includes humans. As the Alliance fleet engaged the vanguard of the entropy swarm, carrying the hopes of 17 species across 200 star systems, one thing became abundantly clear. The crystallids had been right to respond to humanity's accidental challenge. The species that could unintentionally declare war through a simple crystal sculpture was exactly the unpredictable ally they needed. For the first time in 3 centuries, the entropy swarm's advance faltered as it encountered something it couldn't predict: human ingenuity. And across the galaxy, word began to spread about the strange, adaptable species that had emerged from a backwater solar system. The species that had inadvertently challenged one of the most powerful federations in known space, only to become their most valuable allies. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not with a whisper, but with an accidental declaration of war against exactly the right species at exactly the right time. Sometimes, the universe has a strange sense of humor.